Welcome to this edition of NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Charlene Aaron. On today's program, Miracles on Prayer Mountain, the Christian retreat that's seeing scores of healings.
But first, we want to go to the CBN newsroom for the latest updates on today's news. Here's our Mark Martin.
Thanks, Ephraim. Dr. Kent Brantley is giving God all the glory for his recovery from Ebola. He spoke publicly after his release from the hospital today. Caitlin Burke has more on what he said and his concern over the very real threat of the disease.
After nearly 3 weeks of intense treatment, testing, and isolation, Nancy Wrightball and Dr. Kent Brantley are back home with their families.
I'm thrilled to be alive, to be well, and to be reunited with my family.
The Wrightball family requests privacy, but made the following statement. During the course of her fight, Nancy recalled the dark hours of fear and loneliness, but also a sense of the deep, abiding peace and presence of God, giving her comfort. Both Wrightball and Dr. Brantley say they're thankful for all of the prayers on their behalf.
I cannot thank you enough for your prayers and your support. But what I can tell you is that I serve a faithful God who answers prayers.
Doctors say after 3 weeks, Ebola patients who have beaten the disease can't spread the virus because it's no longer in their blood or saliva.
The medical staff here at Emory is confident that the discharge from the hospital of both of these patients poses no public health threat.
Experts say both patients still have healing ahead. It's common for fatigue and aches and pains to linger. Wrightball and Dr. Brantley were working in the Ebola ward of this field hospital in Liberia when they got sick. Dr. Brantley was working with Samaritan's Purse. Franklin Graham, president of the nonprofit, celebrated Brantley's release, but asked for continued prayers for those still in Africa. In a statement, he said, quote, "We have more than 350 staff in Liberia, and others will soon be joining them. So please pray for those who have served with Dr. Brantley, along with the other doctors, aid workers, and organizations that are at this very moment desperately trying to stop Ebola from taking any more lives." The World Health Organization says the death toll from the outbreak in West Africa is now at more than 1,300 people. An added crisis? A number of airlines and shipping services have halted transport to some of the places most affected. Officials say those countries are now experiencing supply shortages, including fuel, food, and basic supplies. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Israel says it has killed 3 senior Hamas military leaders in its Gaza targeting campaign. They were on Israel's hit list for a number of kidnappings and bombings, including the capture of an Israeli soldier 8 years ago. John Waggy has more.
For a second day, Israel launched targeted airstrikes to make Hamas leadership pay a price for breaking a ceasefire with more rocket attacks. And Hamas is paying a steep price. The 2 commanders, Mohammed Abu Smala and Raad Attar, helped plan deadly attacks on Israeli soldiers and civilians, including the kidnapping of soldier Gilad Shalit in 2006. Hamas claims the top terrorist on Israel's list, rocket supervisor Mohammed Deif, escaped an Israeli airstrike that killed members of his family.
This message is directed to the Zionist enemy. Mohammed Deif will be the commander-in-chief of the army that will enter the Holy Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem.
Israel says it is uncertain whether Deif is still alive. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, aware of the impact of atrocities committed by ISIS in Iraq, made the link with the terrorists of Hamas.
Hamas is ISIS, ISIS is Hamas. They're the enemies of peace, they're the enemies of Israel, they're the enemies of all civilized countries. And I believe they're the enemies of the Palestinians themselves. And I'm not the only one who believes that.
Despite continued calls in the UN for a return to talks in Egypt, the fighting in Gaza rages on, and Hamas losses are building by the day. John Waggy, CBN News.
U.S. aircraft are continuing their assault on Islamic State militants in Iraq. They conducted 6 airstrikes overnight to help solidify Iraqi and Kurdish forces' efforts to retake and maintain control of the Mosul Dam. The latest strikes reportedly destroyed or damaged 3 Humvees, multiple roadside bombs, and another vehicle of the Islamic State group. Missouri Governor Jay Nixon is ordering the state's National Guard to begin withdrawing from Ferguson. It was calmer last night in the city, virtually the first time since the violence began following the shooting of an unarmed 18-year-old Michael Brown. Since then, protests over Brown's shooting death have turned violent. 163 people have been arrested. U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder visited Ferguson yesterday to meet with FBI and other authorities to determine if an outside investigation is needed. A New York couple faces thousands of dollars in fines for declining to rent out their family farm for a same-sex wedding celebration. The New York State Division of Human Rights fined Cynthia and Robert Gifford $13,000. The couple believes marriage is the union of one man and one woman. And here now with more on this case is Ryan Anderson with the Heritage Foundation. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be with you.
In 2012, Ryan, a lesbian couple asked the Giffords to rent the family's barn for their wedding ceremony and reception. Cynthia Gifford said she and her husband could not, in good conscience, host the event, believing that as free citizens running a business, they should have the right to decline to participate in an event that does not reflect their values. Do you agree?
Oh, yes. I mean, part of the landmark of America's achievement as a free society was that people, when they step into the marketplace, could bring their moral and religious values with them. And so part of the genius of free markets, free contracts, free association, the freedom of speech, and the free exercise of religion was that we didn't have to leave behind all of our beliefs, all of our values when we engaged in public life. And so the logic here would be that they can run their family farm and host the type of weddings that they believe are in accordance with their values, and that the same-sex couple can seek out a different venue for their wedding ceremony. Unfortunately, New York State has passed a non-discrimination statute that says that you can't discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity, and that believing that marriage is the union of a man and a woman then constitutes that illegal discrimination. The problem here is that New York State's created special privileges on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, and has done this at the expense of fundamental civil rights like freedom of association, free contract, and free exercise of religion.
How can that be? I mean, to me, that does not make any sense that the special privileges override the religious freedom of the owners.
Well, we'll see how this gets litigated. The family has hired an attorney, and they're going to appeal the ruling of the Human Rights Commission. But frequently what's taken place here is that in the name of equality or in the name of non-discrimination, real fundamental civil liberties have been discarded. What we could see here is a live and let live society in which business people who are in favor of same-sex marriage would provide their services for same-sex weddings, and business people who do not favor same-sex marriage would be free to offer their services to the weddings that they believe in, the union of a man and a woman, a husband and a wife. We don't need to have the government impose a one-size-fits-all solution here. So what's ironic is that the people who have been talking the loudest about live and let live and freedom to live and to love are the very same people who then want to impose their values through the coercive government onto this family farm.
All right, Ryan Anderson of the Heritage Foundation, thank you so much for your time and your insights today, sir.
Happy to be with you.
The State Department has banned certain federal employees from participating in the viral social media ice bucket challenge. State Department lawyers say it violates federal ethics rules because some ALS research associations use stem cell research. It started to raise awareness for ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, by donating to research or dumping a bucket of cold water on your head. CBN is even participating. Take a look.
All right, you guys ready? Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Those with CBN who took the challenge are giving to ALS charities that don't use embryonic stem cell research. That's been one criticism of the fundraiser by pro-life supporters. And you can go to our website and search for embryonic stem cell research to see our long history of reporting on alternatives to it. Some got more water than others in that one. Well, coming up, the treatment that's helped patients with Lou Gehrig's disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and more, all without a prescription. We'll be right back.
Well, you might have noticed people are dumping buckets of ice water on their head. Well, the purpose is to raise awareness for ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, a degenerative disease that affects nerve cells and ends in death. The challenge is to donate to research or dump a bucket of cold water on your head.
I'm Steven Spielberg, and I'm accepting the Ice Bucket Challenge. I nominate, I guess within the next 24 hours, George Lucas, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and J.J. Abrams.
Ouch. Participants post their videos and then challenge others, as you just saw, and it's working. Donations are up more than $3 million than they were this time last year. But some groups are raising concerns. Funds going to ALS Association will fund stem cell research. The group says it will honor donors' requests that funds not be invested in embryonic stem cell research.
People with ALS usually die within 3 to 5 years after being diagnosed. The disease kills nerve cells that control muscle movement, so people lose their ability to walk, talk, eat, and eventually breathe. There are rays of hope now, however. Lori Johnson tells us about one treatment that's gaining ground.
Deanna Tadone was a beautiful bride and a recent law school graduate when her doctor told her she didn't have long to live.
And he said, "You have ALS." And at that moment, I felt like I left my body.
Deanna's father, an orthopedic surgeon, was shocked by what little help was available.
We took her to all the various citadels that specialize in ALS, and to my chagrin, there was nothing that could be done for her.
Unable to accept defeat, Dr. Tadone devoted himself to developing a treatment to help his daughter.
I call myself the resident guinea pig.
Finally, one worked, meaning it significantly slowed the progression of Deanna's ALS. He calls it the Deanna Protocol. It consists of supplements like AKG.
So we put her on the AKG, and then we ran out of it. Within one day, her tremors became unbelievable. Okay. Put her back on it, got some more, put her back on it, the tremors subsided.
Dr. Tadone chronicled his daughter's success online. Soon dozens of other people with ALS tried the Deanna Protocol and experienced similar results. People like Anthony Topazzi, the former president of the Mississippi Power Company.
6 months ago, I had a problem with excess saliva. I don't have that problem today. My voice is better than it was. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was. I couldn't drink water or take a pill without feeling like I was going to choke to death. Today I'm taking probably 30 pills a day. I don't even think about it. I could only eat soft food 6 months ago. I'm eating steak, ribs, anything I want today.
Of the people who tried the Deanna Protocol, 75% report it slowed the progression of their ALS and reduced symptoms such as twitching and difficulty walking. Interest in the Deanna Protocol led researchers at the University of South Florida to study its effects on mice with ALS.
It's important to recognize that the animal model that we use is very aggressive and is probably significantly more aggressive than the human form of ALS.
The mice on the Deanna Protocol had improved neurological scores, increased motor function, and most importantly, survived longer than the mice who weren't.
I think it's pretty remarkable that, there's hundreds of drugs and, experimental compounds that are being screened with this animal model. And relative to what's out there, I think, this is proven to be probably the most effective thing out there that's readily available to the general public and to ALS patients.
Results of the Deanna Protocol mouse study were published in 2 leading medical journals.
To me, it's a very important finding, and I think doctors, neurologists need to acknowledge the results of this study and the feedback from patients. And I think they should recommend it as a therapeutic option for their patients.
So while a cure for ALS appears to be a long way off, some patients are at least able to slow the progression of the disease with the Deanna protocol.
And if you'd like to know more about the Deanna protocol, log on to our website, cbn.com.
Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly is cancer-free. Doctors first diagnosed the former Buffalo Bills quarterback with oral cancer in the middle of 2013 and did surgery to remove the tumors. But they found a recurrence of that cancer back in March. Doctors now say chemotherapy and radiation treatments have eliminated his illness and his pain, and he is now able to function normally. His long battle prompted support from thousands on social media, with the catchphrases Kelly tough and prayers for JK. Kelly told ESPN, "I still need the prayers."
Up next, a girl with leukemia experiences a miracle. We'll take you to Prayer Mountain, where thousands of others have also been healed, when we come back. A high school student in Tennessee received a brief in-school suspension for saying "bless you" to a fellow student who sneezed. Kendra Turner is a senior at Dyer County High School. Local media outlets confirmed Turner's computer teacher told her she banned the phrase "bless you" because it should only be allowed in church. The teacher banned some non-religious phrases too, like "my bad" or "hang out." On her Facebook page this week, Turner says her teacher told her, "We do not do godly speaking in my class. I stood up for my belief and said I have a constitutional right to speak about my God." The Dyersburg State Gazette reports the school says the incident is about distraction, not a religious issue. The principal stated, "Sometimes people spin things and turn them to make them seem one way, but I cannot discuss anything specific in order to protect the child."
Miracle after miracle after miracle. That is what's happening on a regular basis at a place overlooking the city of Dallas.
It's called Prayer Mountain, and for the past 30 years, people have come to this retreat for healing. Jennifer Wishon made the climb to the summit to learn more about the miracles on the mount.
At the young age of 6, Viviana Ruiz faced a diagnosis of leukemia.
We didn't know the Lord. We weren't saved. We were just going through life. We just didn't know what was happening. I was in first grade when I was diagnosed, and as you could imagine, like our whole life just completely just kind of crashed.
Then came chemotherapy, and Viviana could barely stand the pain.
One day, I was later on in my treatments. I was feeling really, really sick, and they had already done everything they could. Whenever I was feeling sick from the chemo and the cancer, because you feel so sick from the cancer already, but then the chemo makes you, it kills everything, not just the cancer. And the doctor says there's nothing else we can do.
Around the same time, a family friend convinced Viviana's mom to bring her here to Prayer Mountain.
She brought me in. She sat on that side of the pews, and I was asleep. I fell asleep, and my mom said that the whole church stopped, and Pastor Albert stopped the congregation and had everyone come, and they all laid hands on me and prayed for me, and I was asleep through all of it. And then when I woke up, my mom said that I was completely better. I was a new little girl. None of that was affecting me.
Thanks to that miracle on the Mount, the entire family would eventually come to know Christ. Miracles happen here on a regular basis. Pastor Robert Summers and his wife Joanne discovered Prayer Mountain nearly 30 years ago. They say God told them to buy it and build a prayer center at its summit. Since then, they've added a garden, prayer rooms, and a prayer deck overlooking the city. In Dallas, where everything's big, people are climbing the biggest mountain seeking God, and He's answering back in miraculous ways. The word mountain may be a bit of a stretch. Its peak stands at only about 900 feet, but when you reach the top, the views are spectacular.
We have a lineage of prayer in our families that goes all the way back, parents, grandparents, and we know the importance of prayer and what prayer can do to change things.
In the mid-90s, Joanne and her mother were featured in a 700 Club story called The Seadrift Intercessors. It told the miraculous tale of a group of World War II survivors. The women from Joanne's church gathered daily, interceding for all 52 men from their congregation that were sent into battle, and all 52 returned home safely. She took that experience and now teaches it to a new group of intercessors, including politicians.
For the last 20 years or so that we've been here, every mayor in Dallas, or wannabe mayor, has come out here and asked us to pray with them.
And to the city's young people.
What we couldn't see while we were there at Dallas Baptist University was that the Lord is weaving us into the fabric of this mountain.
As we come together for different denominations, different ethnic groups, and we agree in the place of prayer, it releases power.
Just ask Viviana. She's 20 years old now and gives credit to God and the new generation of intercessors.
I was healed, hallelujah. And just like by his stripes, I was healed, and like I am so grateful for the doctors and the people that helped and everything, and for all they have done, and they were just so supportive. But I wouldn't be here without the Lord today. Constantly, the church would tell my mom, she will not die but live and proclaim what the Lord has done. And now, here I am, all glory to God.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Dallas, Texas.
And finally today, did you know just a little bit of running, even very slow running, can help you live longer?
That's good news for you if you're into running. Running around just 5 to 10 minutes a day can be very good for your heart, and running can cut your risk of dying from any other cause as well. Even if you can't run every day, researchers found that just running once or twice a week was still good for you. If you're not used to running, researchers suggest start walking first and build up gradually. That sounds like me.
I run a lot.
Well, that's going to do it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com.
You want to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today? You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you join us again right here next time. It is Thursday, everybody. Make it a thankful one.